لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم سبحانك لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم رب زدني علما. قال الإمام النووي رحمه الله تبارك وتعالى ونفعنا بعلومه في الدارين. قال وعن أنس رضي الله عنه قال أبو بكر لعمر رضي الله عنهما بعد وفاة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم انطلق بنا إلى أم أيمن رضي الله عنها نزورها كما كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يزورها. فلما انتهي إليها بكت فقال لها ما يبكيك أما تعلمين أن ما عند الله خير لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم؟ قالت ما أبكي أن لا أكون أعلم أن ما عند الله تعالى خير لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ولكن أبكي أن الوحي قد انقطع من السماء فهيجتهما على البكاء فجعل يبكيان معها. رواه Muslim. Allahu Akbar. Continuing with this chapter, which is concerning visiting the people of khair, ahl al-khair, the people of goodness, the people of piety, the people of knowledge, the people of status in deen, and remaining in their company, etc. And also visiting the places of barakah and khair. So in this wonderful hadith of Sayyidina Anas radiallahu ta'ala, he mentions that Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala said to Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, let's go to Ayman and visit her just as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to visit her. And Ayman was, of course, she was actually an Abyssinian slave who was the slave of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam's parents. And after the death of course, his father passed away before he was born, and then after his mother Amina, after she died, so Ayman was like the mother figure for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So she basically raised the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam. So she was like a mother figure to him, and ultimately she came to his lot. And then after at that point, she remained with Rasulullah in the house of his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, as long as he was alive. And then ultimately, Rasulullah, when he attained adulthood, he set her free, and she married a fellow by the name of Ubayd ibn Zayd, and Rasulullah actually was the one who married her. And from that marriage came the son Ayman, for which she was known as Ayman, the mother of Ayman. And subsequently, something happened to that marriage. I don't remember exactly, but perhaps a divorce or whatever. Anyway, both of them. She was one of the very early persons to accept Islam, and immediately after Prophet attained his prophethood, she accepted Islam, and her former husband and the son also were Muslim, and they both died shaheed in Uhud and Hunain respectively. Then Rasulullah married her to his freed son, or his freed slave, and also then as he made him his adopted son until adoption was nullified by Sharia. Sayyidina Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu, whose son was Usama bin Zayd, who was the young commander at the age of about 17 years old. He led the forces against the Byzantine Empire, and succeeded. That was at the time of the death of the Prophet ﷺ proceeded. And also interestingly, Ayman, in the Battle of Uhud, when the tables turned and the victory turned into defeat and the Muslims started running, she picked up a handful of dirt and threw in the faces of the people who were fleeing, and said, go sit and spin yarn with the women, And she said, give me your sword. And she took the sword with a group of women and went to attack the mushrikeen. And she was hit by an arrow. She didn't die, of course. And she, mashallah, radiallahu anha. So it said that perhaps she died shortly after Rasulullah, or in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu. So in any case, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, so Abu Bakr and Umar want to visit her just as the Prophet ﷺ used to visit her, and just as she was the mother figure and she was so such highly respected. So when they came to her, so when she saw them, Abu Bakr and Umar, she started to cry, and so she said. So they said perhaps she's crying because the Prophet ﷺ has died and passed away, and so they said to her, "Don't you know that what's Allah has kept for the Prophet ﷺ is much better for him?" She said, "I'm not crying because I don't know that. I know that. I know what is with Allah subhanahu is better for Rasulullah. But what I'm crying about is the fact that the revelation used to come down from the sky as long as the Prophet ﷺ was alive. And after his death, that silsila, that series has now come to an end." And that statement also brought Abu Bakr and Umar into tears. So they all cried over this fact. So the context is, of course, visiting the people of khair. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to carry on with that tradition. Ameen.